Well, hello there, guys, and welcome to our English Civil War stream. We're going to go ahead and give people about a minute to get in here, and then, of course, we will get started. Hopefully this time the stream will work correctly. We had some issues on the last stream with some buffering issues, of course, but I think that we can get through it this time. And I'm very, very excited to jump into this game. I hope you guys are excited to take a look at it. So I think we're going to go ahead and first, obviously, head into new game. Now, I'm going to be playing just the regular old English Civil War campaign right here. I do want to, obviously, decide or have you guys decide or assist me in deciding who we want to play as. At this point, I think I'm probably going to play as... we've got to decide, but I think we might play as the Parliamentarians. We'll go ahead and see how it works. So I'm going to actually, I guess we'll take Parliament the first time, and we'll click the play button and jump right in here. So, of course, King Charles fled from London some months ago. It seems he has some adherents in several cities, and that as recruiting an army near Nottingham. The loyal governor of Hull supports us, but is under siege. At London, Robert Devereux is at the head of our main army. In some weeks, he will be ready to attack the enemy. In the west, William Ruthven is holding Plymouth for the Parliament. It seems that the Cornish could be there with the king, so be careful. So there we go, guys. We've got basically, we've got essentially the lowdown of the story, and now, of course, we want to go ahead and find out what we're going to do in this particular situation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and probably start trying to rally people to my cause as the Parliament. We'll have to see if it works out. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm actually just refreshing the page here. I do see you guys coming in now. I just wanted to refresh the page for a second. And so first things first, we have this ability to use a declaration. And essentially at the cost of 1 engagement point, we can try to get some of these cities to join our side. Now, obviously, I really want to go for the main cities like Gloucester. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And Newark is another major one. Now, the problem with these cities is since they're so large, really getting support here is a lot harder than one would imagine. We really have to be quite lucky to actually get these cities to join us. I'm also going to do Oxford, basically any city with a star on it. I might also try and get some support over here in Portsmouth, and this is only because, number one, it's a port, obviously, and number two, it's quite an important location. So if we can get these guys to join us, we're going to really make things a lot easier for ourselves. I also want to see if we can maybe drop a declaration in Dover. This might be the least important city. In fact, I think I'll drop a declaration in Cambridge. So let's hope that all of these places will, of course, join us and hopefully want to be a part of our glorious revolution. So we're going to go ahead, and I want to end the turn at this point and hope for the best. Now, one thing we'll do is we will go ahead and show the owner of all the regions, all the provinces, and we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead, end the turn. And you can see we're already getting some support. So we certainly have support in London. We've got some support here in Gloucester as well. So that's quite useful, of course. But we still have a lot we need to go for here. And we're going to have to go ahead and try that. Give me just 1 second, guys. Refreshing the page one more time. Make sure that everything is running just fine. Okay, here we go. So let's grab the army over here. Now, this is Lord Essex army, and we're not going to immediately start moving out with him. We obviously need to try and gain support here and try to get as many men to join our cause as possible. We still have engagement points that we haven't used yet, so I'm going to go ahead and jump over here. I'm going to try to hire some men, but obviously we might actually have a lack of war supplies, which we could certainly use, and I'm also going to get a banker's loan. Now, this costs us 5 engagement points and 200 victory points. However, at the same time, it's definitely a loan that's going to bring us quite a lot of income. So I'm going to go ahead and take that, and hopefully it helps us big time. And let's take a look up here, see if we have won any of these cities. So it does look like we got support in Newark. That's certainly a good thing, but it's very close to Leicester, and Leicester is, of course, where the king himself is. So let's be careful about messing with that area. But let's go ahead and end our turn. I will see if we can do one more decision here, either gain support or recruitment. And I think recruitment is probably a good idea. And let's also see if we can recruit any actual units. Unfortunately, we don't have the money for it right now. But let's end the turn and hope for the best. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm really liking the soundtrack, by the way. It's actually my first time hearing the soundtrack, interestingly enough, and very, very nice. So one thing about London, and actually if you watch the trailer, you'll learn this, that London had some of the finest trained bands. These trained bands, of course, they stay in the location they're raised in. They don't like to move around too much, but these guys were some incredible warriors and really were probably able of holding their own in most cases. Let's go ahead and try to end the turn. And we're going to start moving next turn, of course. Try and stop King Charles from raising any armies. In fact, I want to see if we can actually encircle him, because the truth is the Royalists, as far as I'm concerned, have an easier start. I could be mistaken on that, but I seem to think that they do have a much easier start to the actual game itself. As for the finish, well, you all know what happened there. So first things first, I'm going to try to go to Cambridge. Now remember, we dropped a decision here, which means that the decision was not successful. And obviously that really, really hurts because we could have used that area. And now we're working with far less men than we should have in the beginning of the war here, the beginning of the English Civil War. So let's go ahead and end the turn here pretty soon. Okay, we've had our first fight, and we had a Parliamentarian victory. Wonderful. So as you can see here, 164 of the enemy dead. We lost 133 at Warwick, but it's a victory nonetheless. All right, there we go. So as you guys can see, we're trying to take as many areas as we can. And look at that, Oliver Cromwell himself. Now, at this point in the war, he's not exactly very important, at least not as important as he was towards the end of the actual war, but that's going to change. So we're going to go ahead and move him over here. And as you can see, since these places are neutral and have no standing army guarding them, this is something we also discussed in the trailer, it's going to be very easy just to waltz in and take the areas without even really thinking about it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to basically just waltz in and take these areas as we see fit. At the same time, I do want to consider building a depot here. And I think that's what I'm going to do, a depot here in St. Albans, just to make sure that we have some supply support, if that makes sense. Those two words don't seem to go together very well. And we're going to move north with Brooks' army. Once again, just trying to take as much territory as we can before the battle or the war itself gets completely out of hand. We've also got Waller's army, and Waller was one of the, like the Earl of Essex, was one of the most important sort of guys in the war on the Parliamentarian side. So I really want to see if this guy does well. Let's go ahead and end our turn. And hopefully we're not stopped in Stafford or Ashby-la-Zouch or any of these places. All right, another battle, guys, and another victory. Once again, it looks like General Greville got another win there. Now, we destroyed 512 of the Royalist foot guard here, and of course, a lot of musketeers, some pikemen, but overall, our men absolutely held the battle there. It looks like no surprise was achieved during the battle. No units were inside a city, obviously, and no trench bonuses either. We actually had one retreat attempt by the enemy, but it failed miserably. And looks like we have not taken any enemy prisoners, which means that these guys were essentially just slaughtered. But very, very interesting attack there nonetheless. And also we can just mouse over this if you want to see sort of the way that units were killed, etc. I think it's quite fascinating. Let's go ahead and end the turn. All right, Ruthven. Now we see Ruthven. He is a strong supporter of the Royalists. And as you can see, we're surrounded by a ton of armies here. We've got to be very, very careful about how we move, especially since King Charles is moving towards London. And if he takes London, this game ends and this campaign ends very quickly. Sometimes you have to decide whether you want to move out with the Earl of Essex and take these areas, or whether you want to remain back at the capital and defend it. And in this case, I think we have to go back to the capital and defend it. We really have no choice. One thing I will do, though, is with Fairfax's army here, I'm immediately going to head out and start trying to take some more territory. So looks like we can't go that way. Well, let's go this way, cut off some of the enemy supply, and we'll eventually make our way into Lincoln. Okay, let's see. So it looks like a few foot units here, foot guard. I am going to go on the attack, although I want to be careful because the Earl of Ruthven is right there, and he is quite nasty in battle, although I don't think he's got many men. That's the one thing working on our actual behalf. But I do hope that we make it to London before the king does. We don't need the king in London when we actually get there. So let's see what actually happens here. Give me 1 second, guys. Well, hello there, guys. Looks like we finally have a few people coming in, and I hope that the reason we don't have many people in today's stream is you guys are all busy playing English Civil War right now. Of course, it is out, so you can obviously purchase it right now. The link is in the description, and I highly recommend you pick it up. Very, very fun stuff here. I've enjoyed, just the process of making the trailer for it, and obviously playing the game itself. It's been a really, really fun time. And here we go. All right. It looks like, Ruthven is going to be moving to Ashby de la Zouche. And I hope we have an English subscriber that can tell us how to pronounce that. It doesn't seem like a very English name at all. Now, unfortunately, Ruthven absolutely had more men than we do and managed to actually beat us back there at Ashby. We lost 512. He lost 205. Obviously, we come out of this the losing side. There's no way around it. And I think now we probably want to start heading back to our territory as soon as possible. It looks like, unfortunately, Brooke's army is pretty much trapped here, and that's certainly not a good thing. But it does look like the King's army has retreated, so maybe the King's army is thinking twice about attacking us, which is pretty much a good thing as far as I can tell. I also want to go over here and just see if we can drop some gain support. We might as well try to get support in the areas where we have soldiers. And let's also see how Oliver Cromwell is doing. And look at that. Wow, he's gotten a lot of regions to join us, a lot of cities to join us, I should say. And certainly an imposing figure and somebody that can command respect. Although, to some, you consider him probably one of the worst people in all of history, and I don't blame you. So let's take a look here. Now, I am going to go ahead and attack West Wycombe, I believe. And see if we can't do some serious damage here. So we're going to go ahead and do an assault. Now, when you do an assault, you destroy all the resources in this area, and of course the supply level drops completely. It's not going to be worth anything, essentially, but over time it will rebuild. I'm going to send Waller's army north to Reading. I think, obviously, getting to Reading would be another big city in our grasp, and ultimately, we might be able to merge Waller's army with Essex's army. That's really going to help us come out on top in this war. Let's take a look here at Brooke. Now, he doesn't seem to be doing very well. I'm going to head east with him and try to take these provinces. But one thing you have to consider is that while these provinces, yes, they have raised the parliamentarian flag, but if you look at the actual respect amongst the people, it's only about a 3% difference between the parliamentarians and the royalists, which means that there are plenty of royalists here that could still take over or still, possibly change loyalty. The only reason that these places are respecting us is very simple. We've got Oliver Cromwell, and he's got pikemen with him. It's that simple. He looks scary, and it's that easy to essentially command some respect. How's it going, Dogs of War? Hope you're doing well, man. I saw you liked the trailer, and Dan said that you said I didn't sound as American as I usually do. I guess I sounded Canadian, perhaps? I'm not sure, but that works for me for sure, man. So we're going to go ahead and end the turn. Hope for the best, of course. Okay, here we go. Done comes dragoons. All right, as you can see, unfortunately, Brooke is pretty much stuck here. So we're both moving into Reading right now. We're going to get there with the Earl of Essex, and we're going to get there also with Waller's army. Although one thing I think we should probably do is go ahead, build a depot in this area. We'll go on a defensive mode, and we'll bring Waller to Essex, not the other way around. We'll also go ahead and grab Cromwell and start sending him north just in case Brooke doesn't make it there. And hello, Fury Software. How you doing, man? I think it's Hubert. How's it going, Hubert? I'm very sorry, man, about not being able to play Strategic Command yesterday. I don't know what the heck we had happening there. We have since fixed the problem, and I hope you liked the video I uploaded, but we definitely need to do another Strategic Command stream next week and hopefully get it to work. I think that's going to be very, very important. So here we go, guys. We're going to end the turn here and start trying to move through Newbury, all of these areas, and just capture them for the parliamentarian cause. Lord Strange. I never get sick of that name, Lord Strange. Just a very, very strange name, to put it mildly. And not a guy you want to get into a fight with, especially since our army up here in the north is far smaller than his. I think, in fact, I want to start heading southwards, back towards London, which is all the way down here, and see what we can do. Now, look at that. 843 in Essex's army. That's pretty good. I think we're going to actually go ahead and try to attack Oxford. Now, Oxford is heavily royalist, of course. They are extremely royalist. I want to make sure that our men do not attack, or do not retreat, excuse me, under any circumstances. Ben this morning was at the video. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Hubert. No problem at all. It was a pleasure, and we actually plan to turn that into a series. Let's see how far I can get in 1942, excuse me. I think it's going to be a tough one, but it's certainly very, very fun, and we'll see if I can at least maybe take Stalingrad. That would make me very happy, but I don't think it's going to happen. So let's take a look here once again, guys. Going straight for Oxford. We've got the trained bands back in London. This gives the parliamentarian player a little bit more flexibility, because if you're playing as the royalists and you leave Leicester open, really nobody's going to defend it. You know, it's basically just sitting there waiting to be taken. Of course, we're not going to be able to take it with Cromwell or Brooke, but maybe with another, commander, it's possible that eventually we take that area. So let's take a look up here. These units look interesting. The Lancastrians, of course, they're going to be royalists. And let's end the turn here pretty soon. I just want to make sure we don't have any other units to move, and I don't believe we do. And let's wish our boys luck in the attack on King Charles. A lot of royalists there in the west. There's definitely some concern about that. I'm not sure why this guy didn't move right away. Oh, no worries, no worries. Yes, it is fun. Obviously, we also did a trailer for it. I'm going to go ahead and drop the trailer here for you guys, which I got to participate in. It was really, really good. I mean, I've done voice acting in the past, but this was just extremely fun to do. And also, if you guys want to check out the game and purchase it, the link is in the description, guys, so definitely stop by. And let's go ahead and jump back into the game. So let's hope that this time Essex's army does attack the king and succeeds in his attack. In the meantime, I could take Cromwell and try and take Northampton from the enemy, but we are running low on men. So we might want to go ahead and take a look at the recruitment tab here. It looks like we can't really afford any men. In fact, our gold is very low. We can do an assessment tax on property. John Pym introduced the first of several innovatory financial measures with an ordinance for an assessment tax on property to be levied in London. Fascinating. So we want to go ahead and try and grab this. Of course, it costs 15 engagement points and 100 victory points. It gives us 30 money, though, so I guess it's kind of a trade-off. Not one I really particularly like, but I think we could certainly use the money. So let's take a look over here. So we're attacking north. Come on, Essex. There we go, and it's a parliamentarian victory, a wonderful one as well. Look at that, guys. Of course, King Charles losing 978 men, 386 cavalry units. We still lost a lot of men, but we have a much bigger army than Charles right now, and of course, Prince Rupert was with him. Now, Prince Rupert was not actually Charles's son. He was just his nephew, and I don't believe he ever rose to power, really. Obviously, at the end of the war, Charles lost his head, but I don't think Rupert really gained any power within the country afterwards. Sort of just faded away into obscurity. And look at that. We lost 1,740 men, 557 cavalry, a Pyrrhic victory at best, but it is what it is. So we're going to go ahead and keep trying to hammer away at Charles. We can actually still attack him again, and I think this time I'm going to go for a full-out attack. Ooh, sorry guys, we just had a little crash here. I'm going to have to go ahead and restart. Give me 1 second. It does have a supply system. I wouldn't say the supply system is simple. In fact, quite the opposite. But of course, if you are familiar with age-odd games, should have no problem with it. Even if you're not familiar with age-odd games, what I recommend you do is go ahead and take a look at the tutorial. And of course, we would just go to new game. I don't want to show you now because as far as I can tell, I could be wrong. See, this is the great thing about the game. We actually autosave every turn, so we could resume the autosave whenever we feel like it, and it will go back to the last turn. So just in case you have a crash, which by the way, that's the first one I had experienced. The game did just release today, and this is a recent patch, so hopefully everything's going to be just fine here, and we're going to try to attack the king again. We might not be so lucky this time. Of course, you know, each time is definitely luck-based, so maybe the king gets lucky this time and we lose this battle, in which case I might force a crash just to try and get that victory back. Beautiful Battle of Oxford defenses, and this time we killed 1,216, lost 1,732 and 396 cavalry. I mean, that's a nasty battle, but we won, and that's what's important. And we're definitely going to basically stick around here at Oxford and try and lure the king out once again. So I'm actually going to go for the assault posture. I am going to take Cromwell here and try to merge these areas just so the supply can flow. And actually, somebody asked something about supply, so I'll go ahead and show you the supply regions, as you can see. So, of course, our main supply region is going to be London, but we're sending out supply all over the country here, and I think it's going to go to good use. All right, let's see. Let's kill the king. Another victory, guys. Look at that. But they're slowly but surely whittling down our army, so we do have to be very, very careful. Thank you, Dave. It's good to see you too, man. Definitely looks like the king is taking off, although the royalists are not lacking in armies, or certainly not lacking in generals. I'm not sure if they have as many men as we do. We actually have quite a large army, but they have men all over the place. So this could actually be a lesson. Like I said, I'm no expert at this game. I've played some of it, but perhaps the idea here is to actually try and spread your forces out a bit more. For instance, I have one very large army. I've got a few smaller armies over here, like Fairfax and Cromwell, etc., but I think maybe I need to start spreading out just a little bit more. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry, the music, I know it's good, but I think it's drowning out my voice here. Not sound, sorry, music. There we go. And we will, of course, resume. And yeah, we do have supply running through. This should be a pretty good situation for us. And if we look at the map here, you can kind of see where the support is going. Now, unfortunately, it's mostly royalist support. We do have support here in the east of the country, pretty significant, but we need to try and get more. And I'm actually going to keep chasing the king. I don't see any reason to stop. And I'm also going to take Stamford, who's going to move north and try and take the city of Worcester. I'm sure that I'm going to misspell or mispronounce one of these names, but we'll have to see. What I meant was if the supply system is like in Civil War II with depot chains, or is it like in the Age-odd Rome series? I honestly haven't played enough to know. I think when you say the Age-odd Rome series, you're probably talking about Aliacta Est. You already got the answer with that map mode. Very, very cool. So we're going to go ahead and take Essex's army here. Of course, we're going to keep chasing the king, but since it's winter, you can see it's actually going to take us 38 days to get there. That's not fun. I am hoping that we could take Worcester pretty easily. I hope it's Worcester and not Worcester. I'm pretty sure it's Worcester, though. And we're going to take Fairfax's army and go for Leicester. Now, Leicester is actually a place where the Royalists got the most support. Well, not really. It's a little more complicated than that. But essentially, this is where the king fled to after he left London. Of course, London was very parliamentarian, very much in support of Parliament. And there were a lot of merchants there, a lot of businessmen, etc., that really had no interest in a king. Let's go ahead and end the turn here, guys. I hope we can hunt down Charles. Must bring him to trial and end this war early. At least that's the idea. We'll have to see how it actually works out. Once again, there's Lord Strange. To test that guy. Not just because he's a formidable fighter, but that name, I just can't get over it. I wish I was called Strange. That's a pretty difficult last name to forget. All right, there we go. So the Royalists over here, obviously, they've gone completely unopposed. It looks like we did take Worcester without much of a fight. Now, there are some Royalists here, and they do still seem that this cavalry unit actually has more men than we do. We're still going to try to put up a fight, but obviously this complicates things quite a bit. And it looks like Essex is still having trouble moving. We could obviously start splitting his army up into smaller pieces. It could also be, you have to realize in your stack, the slowest unit is going to be the speed you're moving at. So I'm thinking that maybe, could be wrong here, but maybe that supply train is slowing us down. If not, we're just going to have to keep pushing on. Here we go. Okay, let's take a look up here. So actually what we'll probably do before we get out of the stream, I want to show you guys both sides. Obviously, we've been playing with the Parliamentarians. We might go ahead and do a new game as the Royalists, just so that you guys get an idea of what to expect. And it looks like, sadly, at Worcester Walls, we lost, and which really annoys me because it looks like we actually did outnumber the enemy, but they have some cavalry units here that seem to have essentially outfought our men, and they've definitely wiped out Ware's Musketeers, Pikemen, and Stamford's Horsemen. Nobody likes a battle like that where you clearly have more men, but the enemy still takes the victory. All right, and as you can see, look at all of that Royalist support. We've got to get more of the country on our side, guys. Oh my goodness, are they going to try to attack us? Well, how dare they? All right, well, let's go ahead and go into attack mode and see if we can attack Prince Maurice. Once again, just like Rupert, as far as I know, Maurice was another, not unimportant prince, but essentially, you know, I think for Rupert was King Charles's nephew. I don't remember what Maurice's association to Charles was, but, you know, these were two guys that probably never really had much of an impact after the war on English history. Now, again, if anybody knows different, please let us know, because we do like to hear from our grognards and all of the historical experts on this channel, of which we have many, you know, about the different things that occurred during this time period. Obviously, this is a time period that few people know about, and I think that's one reason why we wanted to make a game on it. I mean, certainly a conflict that is ignored a lot of the time. So let's go ahead, guys. We're going to move in here, and I don't believe... Can we go into offensive mode? Apparently not. Go ahead and end the turn. Okay, and it looks like Manchester is being besieged. It's one of the few places in the north we actually control. So that's not making me feel very confident, obviously. But let's go ahead. We're still here at Leicester. We're still besieging it. And it looks like our guys here in Oxford are slowly getting their strength back. So I am going to try to chase Prince Maurice. Once we've chased him, we'll continue southwest towards Bristol. Now, Bristol is another major city in this conflict, and certainly one we want to try and take. But easier said than done, let's put it that way. I'm also going to go ahead and take Cromwell. He's not really doing much back here. He might as well try to take Warwick, even though he has very few men, and really probably not enough to take a city, but we've seen crazier things happen. And there we go, General Lambert. We probably want to bring him over here. He could be useful later, and we shall end our turn. Oh, Hull. We might actually lose Hull. It's looking pretty tough over here. And once again, Prince Maurice just managed to get away. And there we go. Actually, a decent win by General Stamford against General Ethan. As you can see, he just had Royalist supply trains, so he just knocked a hole in the enemy supply. I think that's going to be very, very useful later on. But just look at that strong Royalist support. And actually, we mentioned this in the trailer, but a lot of people seem to think that the Royalists had more wealthy people, lords and ladies, nobles, etc. in their army. It was actually the other way around. It's actually the Parliamentarians that had most of the nobility fighting with them. which is quite interesting. And the Royalists had a lot of support from the peasants. However, there were some peasants that also supported Parliament, don't get me wrong. But in general, in this conflict, it was all about who your lord and master was. If you were a peasant, on one of these farms or in one of these cities, and you were a tenant to a lord or something like this, generally you would fight on the side that your lord fought on, unless you had maybe some religious differences. You were a Puritan, he wasn't. That might change something. But in any case, it was generally the peasants generally fought on the side of their lord and master. It was just that simple. So it wasn't always about, support or love for one's country or anything like this. It was a little less complicated than that, or more complicated if you think about it. So guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and head back to the main menu, and I'm going to start a game as the Royalists, just so you guys see the first few turns. We also have the battles of Naseby and Marston Moor here, but I really like to start in the Great Civil War, which is, of course, the Grand Campaign, 106 turns. It's a long one, believe me. So let's go ahead and take the Royalists this time. The growing political tensions between Parliament and our beloved King Charles has led us, the Royalists, to an attempt to capture 5 members of the House of Commons last January. It resulted in a failure, and the King, fearing for the safety of his family, was forced to leave London. As the summer progressed, cities and towns declared their sympathies for one faction or the other. This was the case of Hull, which holds an important storage of armaments, and declared for Parliament some weeks ago. Oh, yes. So that's not good. Those traitorous parliamentarians have done it again, guys. This is not good. Now, I'll give you a little tip here for those of you that haven't seen my tips video, which we put here on the channel, for starting as the Royalists, and that would be very simple. So you want to make sure to use your commissions. Go for cities that are not already aligned to you. So try and go for these cities. Even if the city is next to you, it might not be so much worth it to go for like Newark, but it is a very important city, so I will try to grab it. And in general, you just want to make sure that you use up all your commissions here. Try and send some commissions over here, maybe one in Wales, even though the Welsh are very, very supportive of the Royalists. We still want to drop one in Wales. We'll drop one up here in the northeast in Scarborough. I love that name, Scarborough. Commission over here. No, let's drop it here in Oxford. And maybe another one over here. And I think at this point, we can't play the gain support option yet. That comes later. We can certainly start recruiting some troops over here in Shrewsbury. And I think that that's probably something we should focus on right now. Give me 1 second, my friends. Okay, here we go. And actually, I just got, I may have just gotten a crash. I just got a notification, if you guys heard that ding sound. So we may have to go ahead and restart as the Royalists. The notification did just mess up my game, I believe. Yeah, I'm going to Control-Alt-Delete. Thanks so much, Windows. You're always so helpful. All right, so we're going to end task here and open up the game, show you guys the Royalists again, but I will give you guys just some basic tips of how to succeed when you're playing as the Royalists, of course. Okay, let me make sure that this is being broadcast. Nice, there we go. So, like I said, you want to use as many of your commissions as possible. There's actually a specific name for them, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Right, your commissions. Yes, well, I was right. No, sure enough. So we're going to drop one in Newark. We'll drop one in Shrewsbury. We'll drop one over here in Nantwich. You can really spread it out, or you can keep things sort of closer to home. Honestly, I tend to like to keep things a little closer to home, but I don't know why, I always drop one of these commissions in Wales, even though Wales is unlikely to be attacked by Parliament. Winchester is likely to be attacked by Parliament, so we'll probably drop one there. And another thing you want to do as the Royalists, you want to go into the Strategic Atlas. You want to go to Foreign Affairs, I believe. Could be wrong. Let me take a look again. Might be Religious Affairs. Oh, it's too early. Okay, fair enough. It's too early. So eventually we need to send a letter to Queen Henrietta Maria. try to get her to join us. And essentially what you can do is request that the Queen goes to, I believe, France or the Netherlands, and essentially tries to get them to support our cause. It's not easy to do, as you could probably imagine, but it must be done. There we go, a letter to the Queen. So the Queen will start to buy arms and equipment for our army in the Netherlands, in Holland, so that's wonderful. And this is really up to you. I'm not necessarily going to advise you do it. We could also go ahead and increase our war supplies. Now, I am going to do it because, number one, we have the engagement points for it, and number two, we have -4 war supplies. Now, that's clearly not a good thing. So we want to try and increase that as soon as possible. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Civil War spilled out into the PC. Royalist CPU memory against parliamentarian video card power supply, says Steve Jishu. Absolutely. It's not pretty. It's a nasty sight. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end the turn here and see what happens. Now, we are besieging Hull, but at least in my, the times I've played this game, the Siege of Hull is very hard to win. Now, what I generally do is I take Lindsay's force and I start moving to places like Bradford, Wakefield, etc., or in this case, up north to Scarborough. Now, remember, we dropped a commission on these guys, but they didn't join us. The commission doesn't always work, so you need to be careful when you're picking out places to drop the commission. And you can't quote me on this, but from what I believe, in the few times I've played this game, if you drop a commission in a smaller city, you're almost certain to get it. But if you drop a commission in one of these larger cities, it's a lot harder to convince them to join your side, and a lot harder to convince them to be loyal, of course. So keep that in mind, and be careful with your commissions. I like to sort of just throw them out there and hope for the best. We'll see if we get any support next turn. And of course, each game is different. Sometimes you've got an extreme amount of loyalty all over the countryside. Sometimes not so much. In this case, I would say we have a very moderate amount of loyalty here. And our army is just tiny, as you can see here. Now, we do have the army of Prince Rupert. And Prince Rupert's army is actually quite large. So I could actually merge these two. And I wouldn't necessarily advise to do this. And in fact, I would probably advise you to stay here for a turn or two, build a depot, gain your bearings, etc. One great thing about the Royalists over the Parliamentarians is the Parliamentarians have the trained bands. The trained bands can't leave their home region. They're tethered to that land. They have farms there. They have homes there. They've got families there. They're not going to just get up and leave. But our footmen are actually able to go wherever they want on the map. So this really allows you to, especially with the Royalists, sort of get a head start with where you're going and the lands you're taking, and just try and basically take as much territory from the enemy as possible. So that's what we're trying to do right now. So we're going north to Scarborough, and I'm going to go ahead and end the turn. And yes, got some parliamentarians up here doing a pretty good job. And of course, had we stayed at Hull, we would have certainly lost. So I'm glad we got out of there. Not that we really succeeded in doing anything. And there we go, Lord Strange. We're going to send him southwards here. Let's take a quick look at the chat. Thank you, Hubert. Absolutely. Yes, I think for me, one thing I really like are the tooltips. Just being able to see the loyalty, in each of these regions. I think that's a really cool feature. And, obviously you get some regions that are extremely pro-royalist or extremely pro-parliamentarian. And then you've got places like Leicester that are just right down the middle, 50-50. And some places that couldn't give a damn. As you can see here, the neutrality level is 51%. So most of the people are like, what war? What war? Just please let us farm, go away. So I really like that. And obviously the different things you do throughout this massive landscape are going to affect how those people feel about you. So if you start winning battles, you start doing well in your campaigns, you start taking other cities, you might get some more support than you expected. And I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, guys, we are going to end the stream here pretty soon. I do hope you guys will go ahead and take a look at the game. Like I said, we've got the product page right there in the description if you want to pick it up. It's €20, I believe, and I believe that's about, well, don't quote me on this. Again, I'm now officially a European. I've been here long enough. So it is about €20. I think it's very, very affordable. And we're going to go ahead and drop here just the trailer because we actually got to work with an awesome society called the Sealed Knot. Those of you in the UK may be familiar with it. Essentially, it's one of the oldest reenactment societies in the UK. In the entire history of the country. So it's just incredible in terms of their presentation of the Civil War. We got some incredible footage from them just with their fights, the fights they have, and they're so so-realistic. I mean, they don't call them a reenactment society for no reason. There's really a reason that they're called that, and their work is magnificent. I mean, what they do and what they're able to produce is just, it's really incredible. You have to see it to believe it. And let's go ahead and drop our men here. So we're going to start sending Ruthven north. I can't help but think Ruthven is probably a German or Hanoverian, I should say, or Brunswickian. Let's go ahead and end this particular turn. And we're going to take a look very quickly just at the loyalty level here, because I want you guys to start seeing how, in my opinion, at least in the beginning of the game, the Royalists have a little advantage on loyalty, just a tiny advantage. And there we go. We just got a victory, beautiful victory, taking the walls there. And now, of course, Birmingham is under our control. But if we sort of pull out for a minute, and it looks like Warwick is in day 8. Here we go. Oh, my goodness. That's going to be a large battle. Day 12. Oh. Come on. Oh, I thought for sure we were going to win. But I like to think that this was a Pyrrhic victory for the enemy because look at the losses they had. 3,823 men and 335 cavalry. I mean, we can recover from this. We still lost practically half of our army, or very close to half. But nonetheless, taking out that many of the enemy, that's a major, major loss. And you have to also remember during the English Civil War, a lot of wounds. So, for instance, if you were wounded in a battle, your chances of dying were very, very, very high. People didn't know about hygiene like we do today. Didn't know about having to sanitize wounds or clean their hands before treating wounds. So a lot of men after a battle, even if they had minor wounds, would end up dying. And obviously during winter, in the camps, having to deal with, with disease. It was a tough war. And I think, I'm sure as far as Ireland is concerned, half of the Irish population after Cromwell invaded were killed or starved to death. And in England, I believe it was something like a quarter of the population. Essentially, if you look at the actual population of the UK during World War I and you look at the population of the UK during the English Civil War and the actual change is higher than the amount of men that the British lost in World War I. Now, that's not to say there were as many casualties or more casualties in the English Civil War than there were in World War I. But if you look at the amount of people on the land at the time, there certainly was a higher percentage of casualties from the actual soldiers themselves. So it was a brutal, brutal war. Are you around, Head? says my colleague. Absolutely. Thank you, Rayed Al-Mazuki. Absolutely, man. I'm glad you liked the view that we did, and really appreciated your comment. Too late. Bought it a few hours ago. Exactly, Dave. Thanks, buddy. All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and sign off here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for sticking around and stopping by. Make sure to go ahead and check out the trailer, check out this video once we upload it. And we're going to have another stream tomorrow on our Twitch channel. It's going to be a Sanctus Reach stream. So I do hope you guys will be there at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard, 5 p.m. European time. I think it's GMT, actually. Wow. Feeling like I'm back in New York. So there we go, guys. Thank you again for watching. Take care and have an awesome, awesome day.